Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Storm. And speaking of Storm, I wanted to talk about Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 4. It's been out for a little while already, but I've only been able to play it recently. And I gotta say, I'm not that impressed by it, in all honesty. I don't know if it's because maybe I'm just fatigued by the franchise at this point, both Naruto itself and the Ultimate Ninja Storm games. But Storm 4 really didn't grab my attention as much as I had hoped it would. When the trailer first came out, it looked really cool. The new gameplay, the small gameplay changes, I should say, and the continuation and eventually the ending of the story of Naruto, or at least Naruto's own generation, anyway, his peers and everything. But I wasn't too impressed with the game, in all honesty. I mean, for one thing, the story mode itself is just shockingly short. It's kind of agonizingly short. I mean, yeah, people don't play a fighting game for its story, strictly speaking. There are some few exceptions out there. Some people enjoy the story to Street Fighter, which is why when Street Fighter 5 came out, everyone's story mode was, well, met with kind of utter derision, honestly, by the community. The fact that everyone's story was so short, and despite the fact that Street Fighter has a fairly engaging story, but it just hasn't been touched on that much. And kind of the few times Capcom actually did try to touch on the story, it was extremely lacking. And that's not just it. That's nothing to mention of the lack of an arcade mode or regular offline versus mode against the AI. But I'm getting off topic right now. So Storm 4's story, again, like I said, it was very, very short. It pretty much picks up at doing the Ten Tails revival arc of the series, when Obito takes the last bits of those small bits of Gyuki, the Eight Tails, and Kurama, the Nine Tails, and then throws them into the what remains of the ghetto statue, and turns it into the full blown King of Hell's Ten Tails. It goes from there all the way to the end of the series with Naruto and Sasuke's final clash at the Valley of the End, and that's, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's not too much. And I guess since this is the end of the story and everything, it shouldn't be too much. But when I played the game, I was honestly just astounded by how little there was to the story itself. It should take you only a little over 6 hours to finish the story mode. Which again, yeah, this is the end of it. There's no reason to pad things out. Just get everything to the end. But again, I was just a little amazed by how little there was to do it to do in the story. Um, what I kind of liked is the fact that you were able to jump in back and forth between Naruto and Sasuke's scenarios in the story when they were separated from each other. Fairly early on in the story mode, and then a little bit later on towards the end. But I kind of feel that was a bit unnecessary, considering that you can't really progress through the story without completing both sides anyway. Uh, you can complete all of Naruto's parts in the story, but then you also have to do all of Sasuke's parts of the story anyway, in order to get that last little bit of unified story when they both come back together and they're both fighting alongside each other. So I kind of felt that splitting them up a couple of times wasn't really necessary. They could have done a lot better just for having you go from scenario to scenario in a linear fashion, honestly. Just to get to the end. And as for the story itself, well, I when I first saw everything happen in the manga, I didn't think much of it before, and seeing it again in video game form, even, I don't think much of it now. And knowing what I know now about Kishimoto's development for the story, apparently, while writing the story, Kishimoto actively forgot certain points of the story that he actually wrote. So he was retconning things, not left and right per se, but he was actively retconning a few things as the story progressed because he didn't bother to go back and refresh his memory of his own plot points. So, and this is all big spoilers right here if you couldn't already tell. So when we have things like Naruto and Sasuke being reincarnations of the sons of the Sage of the Six Paths, and we have Kaguya coming out of nowhere at the last second to resolve the issue with Madara, it it really comes off as something that just kind of slapped together and something a little hastily written. Which, considering that Naruto was written week by week, like many other series in Shonen Jump, that's to be expected. Every single week, you have to figure out something new, some new sort of plot point. Maybe not necessarily to create tension in the story, like say Kaguya, but somehow, some way to progress the story in some fashion, which is apparently the reason Sasuke exists in the first place. Kishimoto couldn't figure out how to progress the story in any meaningful way, so his editor suggested, "Hey, why don't you come up with a rival for Naruto?" And so Sasuke was born, and the rest is history. But that aside, again, the revelation that Toby was actually Obito the entire time, a lot of people saw it coming. I just thought it was. I just thought that was really bad. Retconning Obito's death, and even compromising Kakashi's own modern day character that he based on Toby's own personality, more or less. I just thought that was all kind of bad. And considering that Obito he switched sides at the last second to fight against Madara, it's the same kind of issue I had with Nagato, who spent his life convinced that he was right, that he had he had to create this giant weapon to cause bouts of war and peace. And then Naruto has one conversation with him and changes his mind on it. Same thing with Obito. One conversation with Naruto. Well, it was more than one conversation, even both of them. It was a fight and kind of a long, drawn-out conversation. But still, just one instance of meeting and interacting with Naruto, and all of a sudden, everyone changes their minds about what they were doing. And I think it was especially bad with Obito, who lived his life since he was about 13 or 14, 12, 13, 14, thinking that he was right. And now, more than 10 years later, again, one real interaction with Naruto, one serious interaction with Naruto, not counting that part when they met briefly in the Land of Iron, or when Obito kind of delayed that retrieval team from getting to Sasuke and Itachi. It was just kind of badly written in my opinion, and kind of a sign that I think the Naruto series itself is a little bit too idealistic. Especially when it comes to Sasuke, who, again, he was on this path, this war path of revenge. And considering that he talked with Itachi, he talked with the four revived Hokage and got their opinions, or in the game anyway, he only talked to Hashirama. Even though in the manga and anime, he talked to all four of them to an extent to get their opinions on certain things. Yeah, granted, Sasuke had a change of heart. He experienced a lot of things. He got advice from people who mattered the most to him, and he came to a new conclusion for himself. So that I'm not really going to criticize, but it's just when you consider everything Sasuke had done up to that point, and Naruto was just so hell bent on getting him back to the Leaf Village, it's just a bit too idealistic and a little too. I think that a lot of parts of the story were just badly written. Yeah, and then and of course all that carries on to the game story mode, so I can't help but to comment on that. Another thing I have to comment on for the story mode is the fact that rather than using the character models that the past Storm games had used, character models that imitated the artwork from the anime, to a limited degree, I've always felt that the character models could have been better, but considering that Cyberconnect 2 was trying to emulate the anime to an extent, it was a decent attempt, but that's still not very good. In the past games, including now in Storm 4, characters will shift from one pose to another, speaking kind of stiffly, considering that the fact that the voice actors have to try and match the tone of the game, rather than, say, the tone of the anime, which they were given a little more freedom for. Storm 4 decided to opt for still images of characters. Sometimes they had limited movement in that. Like, for instance, you saw Obito throwing the fan back to Madara, who it belonged to begin with. Kind of a 3-frame thing. The two of them stand next to each other. Obito kind of lifting his arm to throw the fan and then tossing it at Madara, who caught it. That kind of thing was flat out bad. Just the limited animation, just using still images and voiceovers, interspersed with limited use of the character models, which are kind of bad to begin with. But again, they're trying to emulate the look of the anime, so I can't really hold that against them too much. But I still don't think the character models are all that great, and considering that they decided to kind of cheap out and use still images with voiceovers, was just bad. Again, considering that they had some some animation in them for certain movements, like say wind blowing, or in terms of the Ten Tails rampaging, like you could see pieces of gravel kind of rising up into the air or something, or the effects of gravity or something. It seems to me they really could have just done the character models from the start, and at least everything would still have a consistent look, rather than going back and forth between still images and regular cutscenes using using the in-game engine. So the story mode, not very good in my opinion. It's there. You can clear in about 6 hours. If you want to do it, there are a few trophies you can get out of it, but it's really not anything to write home about. The game's adventure mode, which has been there since the start, more or less. I think it was kind of not there in Revolution. It was, but it wasn't. That whole island tournament thing that they were trying to do. Not a bad idea, but I don't think it was quite there in execution. But that aside, the adventure mode for Storm 4 is a lot better than it has been in the past games. When you're in the Leaf Village, at least, you're given a full 360-degree range to work with. You can move the camera around to look around. The village is far more explorable than it ever has been in the past. And you're given the movement. You're given the freedom, to move to any particular part of the world. In Naruto. The only drawback there is, though, is that I guess it's a kind of a give or take thing. They gave you somewhat a fully explorable Leaf Village to go through, but in exchange, you can't traverse the world as much as you could. Like you can't walk between the Leaf Village gate through forest roads and to get to the Hidden Sand Village. It's just go to the Leaf Village gate, activate a waypoint, and you automatically teleport to the Sand Village. It's a give and take kind of thing, but I think in the end, I much prefer what Storm 4 did, because I didn't like exploring that much in the past games. I'd rather just have gone to those particular places I'm looking forward to begin with. The Leaf Village, the Sand Village, the Rain Village, Orochimaru's hideout, I guess, even though it's got really empty as hell. So, having a fully explorable Leaf Village and taking away the areas in between, I'm fine with that. I was going to say, I will admit this up front, I haven't done every last little thing in the adventure mode, but as far as I can tell, the adventure mode is lacking substantially. It takes place after the end of the Storm 4, the Storm 4 story mode, which in other words, the end, right after Sasuke and Naruto's final fight. The adventure mode, opens up with basically Sakura trying to play matchmaker with Naruto and Hinata, which is, as far as the game is concerned, it was very badly executed. Basically, this series of missions is just you and Sakura and Hinata, Naruto, Sakura, and Hinata, you the player, going to various locations and basically reminiscing about past fights that Naruto has had and past experiences. Which, okay, that's not bad, per se, but it's the way it was done. Yeah, Sakura trying to get Hinata and Naruto together, and basically doing it in a series of flashbacks that have little to no substance at all. They really don't build on anything that's happened in the series to begin with. It was just very badly written and very badly put together. I mean, yeah, it's a series of missions that don't really mean much in the grand scheme of things, but to try and put that into the adventure mode and not at least expanding on it a little bit. I mean, Revolution had that entire Mecha Naruto or Mecha Kurama mode for the story mode. That was that game's story mode. And I'm going to admit, I didn't play through it. I played through it, but I can't skip all the cutscenes, so I can't exactly say how substantial that was. But at the very least, Revolution kind of built its hype on the fact that you had Mecha Naruto and Mecha Kurama to play around with, and there was a story mode based on that. So that on itself, that sort of non-canon story for the game actually helped a bit. It gave you something to look forward to. It had some sort of substance to it, non-canon though it may have been. And considering that the Naruto Hinata thing actually is important, this small little series of missions that were basically just nothing but prolonged flashbacks was just very weak. Which is interesting considering that there was a mission in the adventure mode where you have to speak with Konohamaru and Iruka, which I thought was actually much better, considering that it was showing Konohamaru's growth as a ninja and his relationship with Naruto, and how Naruto's moving forward in his life, and how his interactions and relationships with Iruka and Konohamaru have changed. That's just a side mission in the adventure mode, but that had a little more, that had more substance and something that was a little more endearing than Naruto offhandedly reminiscing to Hinata about stuff that he's done in the past. The adventure mode is there, as far as I can tell, just for nostalgia's sake, and just for the fact that, and nostalgia's sake in the sense that there's been an adventure mode since the first game. That's kind of the only reason it's there. And again, the adventure mode is very lacking. There's really nothing there other than just to walk around and pick up some memory fragments, which they've been in the past games, which, activate fights that happened in the past in the series, like Hinata versus Neji, or Lee versus Gaara. Those fights, not a bad thing, but I can't help but think that you could just reenact those fights yourself in the regular exhibition mode. I don't know. It builds. It kind of builds on the world lore for Naruto, at least as far as the games are concerned. But I don't know. I've always thought that the memory fragments weren't really much of they really weren't much to me. A nice little collectible, but as far as story building or world building goes, I kind of felt that they weren't necessary. Something to get you to walk around the Naruto world, sure, but yeah, just kind of a nothing thing to me. Some people may have liked that, but I didn't care much for it. Now, considering that this is a fighting game, I've been rambling about adventure mode we can explore and the story mode, but this is a fighting game, and the combat in Storm 4 has been turned up a notch. It's a lot more dynamic. It's a lot fiercer than it's been before. And the controls are a little faster than they've been in the past games, as far as I can tell. One of the best features that they've included is the fact that you can switch out characters in the middle of a fight. In the middle of a combo, you're attacking with Naruto, mashing the circle button, and then you flick the right stick, which is odd that it's the right stick, considering that, as far as I can tell, the L2 is completely useless on the controller. As far as I can tell, I don't think it's used. No, I don't think it's used at all. I'm probably wrong though, but anyway, you could do something like in the middle of a combo, flick the right stick, left or right, and your teammates, your support characters, will jump in, replacing the character you are using, and they can continue the attack if you want in that fashion. That brings a new level to the gameplay. You can chain together attacks. You can mix and match teams in a far more dynamic way. So altogether, I think that's just a nice thing that they threw in. Also, another interesting thing. I think it's depending on the people you have in your team. But if you go into your awakening mode, all your characters go into your awakening mode. You'll even get a split screen of all three characters going into their awakening modes at the same time. So you don't have to worry about, say, you just using Naruto going into his nine-tail chakra cloak, and then switching to Sasuke and thinking, oh, but wait, Sasuke's kind of at a disadvantage. I was in awakening mode with Naruto, but now I switched to Sasuke and he's just regular. Well, you don't have to worry about that because he'll be in his awakening mode too. So, considering, like, say you picked Sasuke from the Hunt for Itachi arc, he'll be in this Curse Mark level 2 mode. So, you don't have to worry about that at all. Another thing they added, well, it's not a big thing, honestly, but something that it just goes back to how I just didn't think the story was written very well. Itachi and Shisui's Perfect Susanoo modes, which you actually play as. You can play as Madara, Sasuke, Itachi, and Shisui's Perfect Susanoo modes. I don't think Kakashi has a Perfect Susanoo mode in the game, but I have to double check on that. If you remember in the past games, Revolution even, or 3 Full Burst, or maybe just Revolution, Like, say when Madara went into his awakening mode and he would use his perfect Susanoo, it would be that giant Susanoo, like how it was in the manga, just a giant there wreaking havoc on the battlefield. Instead, in Revolution, I'm sorry, in 4, they toned that down to just being fairly tall, very tall, and being able to control the entire giant. So that's not bad. That's actually kind of cool to me, a little bit. But again, the whole Perfect Susanoo thing made more sense when we consider that it was Madara using it, and when he was still Edo Tensei, and not Sasuke, who's learned how to use it after, like, I think glimpsing Madara using it, or even Kakashi, who did it at the drop of a hat. As soon as he got both Mangekyo Sharingans in his eyes, I don't know. I think my only complaint about the game itself, about the characters themselves, the roster for the characters, the most that's ever been in the series, 61 characters last I checked. But a big problem I have is kind of the same thing like I think Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi did, is that they're counting different versions of the same character as different characters. So there are like 6 or 7 different versions of Naruto, but they're counting those as 6 or 7 different characters. Like Naruto, Naruto post time skip, Nine Tails Naruto, Sage Mode Naruto, Six Paths Naruto. I'll top of my head as one I can think of right now. That's 4 different characters they're counting. Again, time skip Naruto, Sage Mode Naruto, Nine Tails Naruto, and then Six Paths Naruto. But they're counting those as different characters, which sure helps you fill the roster, I suppose. But like that's fibbing a bit, don't you think? I mean, it's not like these 61 characters when at least 5 of those are Sasuke in just different forms. Another problem I have, and this is just a personal gripe of myself, just a personal gripe, that more than half the characters I don't feel like using. I mean, the Akatsuki are really popular with fans, but personally, I only really liked Itachi and Nagato himself, and the David Path Pain. I really like Madara, both regular form and as Ten Tails Madara. Obito's combos are pretty cool. I like using Naruto. I kind of like using Sasuke. I like using Sakura. But that's kind of it. Again, this is a personal gripe for me. This isn't to detract from the game itself. I just don't care for like half the characters in the game. I never really have. I end up using the same characters over and over again. But again, that's me. That's not to detract from the game. If you like Kiba or Tenten or whoever, keep using them. But I could care less for them. Another problem I have, and I think this is something of a detractor. It's a personal gripe and a detractor. Is the fact that a lot of the costumes you can get in game were available in past games. Like when I had Storm 3, I still have Storm 3. No, actually, I don't have one. I sold that one. I think it full burst, which is a problem too. All the costumes you can get in the past games are showing up for free in Storm 4. All you have to do is exchange the necessary materials and pay for them using the in-game currency, and you've got them. Like, for instance, Madara Before Death, or the swimsuit outfits, I think are coming later on. Or the Akatsuki members with their hats, or the Kage with their hats. All that was DLC, paid DLC early on, but now they're free in-game for Storm 4. That's really a slap in the face, I think. I mean, I think that somehow, maybe you could prove that you purchased those DLC costumes early on, kind of maybe verify that was Storm 4, so they can just give you all that stuff for free. But that's twice in a row, my cat's here. But I just really think that was kind of a slap in the face, especially since I bought a lot of that stuff myself. There is later DLC coming. They're going to expand the story mode. In particular, the first batch of DLC is going to have a story mode that focuses on Shikamaru, which is supposed to be 3 hours long, apparently. So that's actually something I'm looking forward to. The adventure mode was very shallow, again, but having something with Shikamaru and a different character you can control and walk around and have different stories with them, I think will definitely adds a bit more life to the game. It's in my opinion. There's also supposed to be. Oh yeah, you're supposed to be able to get Hokage Naruto from not the last, but from both the movie adult Naruto as Hokage. Four new combination jutsu, one new ninja treasure set, which the items that you get in battle, and for completing certain missions and side quests. New ninja info cards, new 10 matching voices, and the only thing that people really care about, two new costumes are coming. There's supposed to be about 3 DLC packs. Again, the first one adds a new scenario focused on Shikamaru, Hokage Naruto as a costume, new combination jutsu, and 10 new outfits. This is something people really care about. That's coming out. If you bought the season pass, that comes out in about 4 days, March 3rd. I'm sorry, March 8th. I'm sorry. But if you didn't get the season pass, it's March 15th. 15th, right before St. Patrick's Day. After that, the next DLC batch, comes out the 29th for season pass owners, and for April 5th, if you don't have the season pass, that one will contain another scenario for the adventure mode focusing on Gaara, Wandering Shinobi Sasuke outfit, which I assume is what he had in both the movies, his adult costume. Through the combination jutsu, focusing on Sasuke and Itachi, Lee and Guy, and basically all Team Guy, Lee, Neji, and Tenten. I'm gonna go back up a second. I should have mentioned this before. The first batch of DLC, those 4 combination ultimate jutsu that's coming out for the first batch of DLC, Bolt and Naruto, that giant Rasengan they used in both the movie, a Hokage combination ultimate jutsu, one focusing on Shikamaru and Asuma, and one focusing on Kiba, Shino, and Hinata. And the third and final DLC pack, apparently, as far as I can see, comes out on April 26th if you have the season pass, and May 3rd if you don't. Jesus, that's a long time. 4 new playable characters, or technically speaking 5 new playable characters. The rest of the Sound 5. Sakan and Ukon, Tayuya, Jirobo, and Kitamaru. 3 new combination jutsu. Kisame and Zabuza. Zabuza and Haku. And a combination jutsu for the Sound 4. Well, Sound 5 really, but Sound 4 since I guess it's not including Kimimaro. And 10 new costume packs. So each DLC pack will have 10 new costumes. That's 30 new costumes altogether. Not counting the ones you can unlock already in game if you exchange, let's say, materials. You want to grind for them. There was region specific DLC. In Latin America, you can get Poncho costume Naruto, which is Naruto Seijima with the poncho on, and Sasuke Taka. Was Taka Sasuke not in the Latin American version or something? And in China, you got Chinese temple costume Naruto, which is Naruto in his tail beast mode, but with a Chinese costume. So that's cool. Trying to think. Well, nothing. There was really nothing new for Storm 4. Bottom line, the story mode is very short. Don't get it for the story mode if you actually... Well, if you're going to person who's following the story via the games, I guess you would get the game for the story mode. But it's really shallow and, like I said, kind of badly written, in my opinion. The adventure mode has almost no depth to it. There's some missions to do there, but you can clear it all in just maybe a few hours or a couple of sittings if you don't want to go... Maybe if you don't want to marathon it forever. 3 new scenarios coming out for that. Oh, I'm sorry, let me check. Was it 3 or was it just 2? Wow, it's just 2. It's just 1 scenario for Shikamaru and 1 scenario for Gaara coming out. Okay, that sucks. So the adventure mode's half useless as far as I can see. The gameplay remains mostly unchanged from the past games, except again for the ability to switch characters in and out of battle, and for everyone being able to use new combination jutsu, ultimate jutsu, mind you, and everyone being able to be in their awakened form at the same time. And of course, new characters: Kaguya, Ten Tails Madara, Ten Tails Obito, 6 Paths Sasuke, 6 Paths Naruto. You can get Naruto and Sasuke and Sakura in their outfits from the last. and apparently from both the movie as well. You can get Bolt and Solidor, but those are only pre-order bonuses. I didn't pre-order the game. My brother bought the game, and you know what? Anybody bought the season pass, and you know what? I'm glad he did. I wasn't gonna get the game myself, but other stuff came up, other games I wanted to play, and as time went on, I kind of didn't feel like buying the game anymore. I decided eventually I just didn't. But my brother bought it. I played it. I gotta say, in all honesty, it's a waste of money. I'm gonna be completely honest. Storm 4 is really just a waste of money. If you have any of the games on PS3 or 360, or even Steam, like the last 1 or 2 games come out on Steam, Storm 4 really is not worth the money. It's mostly the same characters. Yeah, some new ones, sure. If you really want to play as Ten Tails Madara or Six Paths Naruto, sure. But if you don't care that much, Storm 4 is not worth the money. It really, really isn't. Maybe I'm just fatigued from the series. Again, Storm 4, the Storm series itself, and maybe Naruto itself as a whole. But as far as I can tell, Storm 4 is not worth the money. Not the way it is now. Or period, really. If you want the game, I would suggest waiting until the price dropped a little. It's $60 right now. $35, $40 tops maybe. And maybe get the season pass or any of the individual DLC packs if you want. But I genuinely just do not think it's worth it. It's not a bad game. It's really just kind of on the same level as all the other games have been. And with that said, I can't justify really buying the game. Like I say, I think it really is just a waste of money. Unless you're a really, really big diehard Naruto fan, you probably aren't going to want this game too much. Especially if you played any of the other games in the past series. Storm 4 may not have that much to offer you to justify paying $60 up front plus another $20 for the season pass. Or maybe $10 each for the individual DLC packs, which is what I assume they're going to cost for all the stuff they're giving you. So, I mean, that's it. Storm 4, not a bad game, but one you can probably afford to hold off on a little while. Maybe get it later on this year once the price has dropped. Or even next year if you're looking for a new game to play with. Personally, I say if you want a good fighting game, I don't know, Mortal Kombat X, I guess. Street Fighter 5. I mean, yeah, there's no arcade mode or story mode to speak of. No real story mode to speak of, but those are all technically better fighters. They're a bit more complex, and they have a little more going for them than Storm 4 did. It's basically the same as the past games that have been in the series, and with that in mind, it's just not worth it in my opinion. You may feel differently, you may want to get it, and by all means, get it if you want to, but if you're on the fence about it, you don't have it yet, and you're thinking, should I get it? Well, I'll put it this way, if you played at least just two of the past games in the series, not much has changed, other than a few new characters being added. And if you really want to play as those new characters, again, Kaguya, Obito, everything, if you want to play those characters, by all means, go ahead, but I'm glad I didn't buy the game. I'm glad my brother paid for it himself. Because after I finished Storm 4, I was not thoroughly disappointed, but just disappointed in general. I can't see him coming back to it anytime soon, except maybe to just farm a few other extra trophies out of it, but yeah, that's kind of it. Nothing else to say, really. Yeah, so, yeah, nothing much to say. I'll talk to you guys later.